Hello and welcome back. In this video we are going to talk about one of the most important things in programming, variables. So let's get started and create our program for variables. We come here in the console app, click next, give it a name, for example learning variables. Click next, then create, and the Visual Studio will open up a project for us from the console application. So we have those words console.writeline here. We won't need them for now, so let's delete them. So if you understand variables, everything else in C# will start to make much more sense. Take your time, pause the video if needed, and follow along to understand what this thing is. A variable is a place where we store data in our program. You can think of a variable as a box that has a name and contains a value. For example, if you want a whole number, we give it a name, maybe count, and this thing stores some value, for example 5. So the value inside the box can change while the program is running. For example, we might store a number, a piece of text, or a calculation result. So you can change it while the program is running. You can give it different values and so on. Let's create our first variable in C#. So we come here in program.cs, write the following line. So int comes from integer. This variable is for whole numbers. Number equals 10. Int is the date type. Here it's integer for whole numbers. Number is the name of the variable. 10 is the value of the variable. The equal sign is used for assign, not comparison. So once the variable is created, we can use it. We can print its value using console.writeline, like in our first program that we wrote in the previous tutorial. So we can input here the number. Instead of text in quotes, we pass the variable name. C# prints the value stored inside the variable, so that thing means that it should print us the value 10. So just wait a second, and here it is, the value 10, quote number, which stores whole numbers. So variables can change their value during the program. We assign a new value using the equals sign, like this. Number equals, let's say 20, and now the console will print us the number 20, right? Yes. So let me explain just for a second what happened here. So we created a variable which stores whole numbers, integer, gave it a name number, and stored the value 10 in it. Then we get the same variable, we call it by its name, we say equals 20, which means that we changed the value of the variable. That's why it's called variables. We can change their value throughout the program, how much we need them to do so. C# supports different variable types. Let's delete this for now. Int for the whole number, like this. We can do double a, for example, equals 10.5. Double is for storing whole numbers and decimal numbers also. So if you want to store decimal number like this, we stored 10.5. So if I want to use double and I'm not sure what number I'm going to use, either it's decimal or it's a whole number, I just delete this part and now we can use it for the whole number. So the next type is string. This type is for text, but the important difference here you have to remember is that when we type a text in C# or almost any other programming language, we must type it in double quotes like this. So here we can type, sorry, I forgot to give it a name. Let's do it like this. We can say hello world, and if we give the console.writeLine the name of this variable, it will print us hello world, right? Yes. So bool is the next data type like this. Its only values can be true or false. So bool equals false like this, or bool equals true like this. You won't have to use this type of variable for now, but later in the tutorials you'll see how it can be actually useful. So each type defines what kind of data a variable can store: whole integer, whole and decimal numbers. String is for text, boolean is for true or false. Types help C# understand how to work with the data. You cannot use text and numbers in the same way. So what does this thing mean? If I maybe try to sum text plus the variable a, just look at what it will print us. It doesn't make the summing, it doesn't add them up, because you can't add text to a number. Or the other thing we can do is like this. Let's say that this is 330. This thing here is 200. So if we try to do this thing, a plus text, we are trying again to add a whole number which is stored like number. That's important, because if you store the number in a variable for text, you won't be able to use this number as a number, if that makes sense. You can use it only and only as text. So if you run this program, you'll see 200, which is this variable here, and text, which is this variable here. So if you want to make this thing a double plus integer, you can do it, and it prints us 210. So for example, let's say if the double is a decimal number, 200.5, we can do this again and prints us 210.5. That's because if you try to add a decimal number to a whole number, C# is clever, so it automatically transforms the whole number from integer to double, and that's why we get the result. So you understand it later in the tutorials, you just have to know it for now. Using the wrong type will result in an error also. So if we try to use 10.5 for whole numbers, it will give us error. If we're trying to run the program, it won't run. So it's important to know that you can't use other data type in a wrong variable. So for example, in the string where we have to store text, if we want to store a number, it will give us error. Again, the program won't be able to run. And so on, so on. If we try to use for boolean something other than true or false, for example 6 gives us error. For example, let's say this, it again gives us error. And I almost forgot for data type, which you won't use it for now, but it's interesting to know it. That's the char type. It's like for one word, one character. It's not only for words. Just a second. Oh, I forgot to give it a name again. Let's say you. It can be a, it can be this, it can be just everything. Just so you know it. I will explain what everything here means later in the tutorials, because it's not important for now. So just you may have to use it sometime. Variable names also should be meaningful. What that means? Now that's a testing program, so I can name it A or C or U, what you are using this variable for. For example, int number, we can leave it like this, but double we may have to make it like this for money. That's the balance we have, or something like this. String, maybe the what, let's say string menu, and so on. One more important thing is that in naming your variables, you can't, it's not a good practice, you can, but it's not good practice to make your variable starting with a capital letter. If you use two words for naming a variable, for example money and balance, you can't type it like this, money balance, it gives errors. So you may just do it like this: money, then balance starts with a capital letter. The second word must be with a capital letter because it's more readable. If you make it like this, it's not good. So that's the two most important things you must know about naming your variables in C# and other programming languages. Also, the third thing is that you can't put numbers. I mean, you can, but it's not a good practice. If we say like this, I would have to call this variable like this: money balance, just a second, like this, and I have to remember the code that I wrote here, 63551. That's not okay, so you just know it. So that's basically it for naming your variables. So like this, they're easier to read. Now you understand some things about the variables. In the next video we will cover basic operations with variables. Subscribe if you want to continue learning with me step by step, or you can join our Discord community server if you have any questions or you need some sort of help. Feel free to ask. Bye, and I'll see you in the next one.